Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Caleb and welcome to another video from here today. And I haven't done a subscriber suggested video in a while. I mean, of course I have because I've gone through a dozen Anime America videos that you guys have suggested to me. But I haven't actually mentioned too many of them in a good while. So today we're going to be looking at top 10 male harem leads in anime. And this one was suggested by Eli Neko or Eli Neko. I don't know the correct pronunciation for that. But the comments said top 10 harem main characters, and I guess they meant this one. So yeah, not much else to go off of this video. I have nothing else planned to talk about, so let's go. Don't you dare play an ad on me again. Okay, should be good. I'm horrible at timing.
Yeah, it's my birthday month. Turning 22. It's a thing, y'all.
You share a birthday with my friend Jessica.
So with that, in Anime America tradition, I'm celebrating with my own solo top 10 list. And being
I feel bad.
harem queen, I thought only
Anybody who has a birthday on September 11th before, actually before or even after 9/11, I'm sorry. I feel horribly bad for you that you. Mostly just because everybody's gonna make jokes about that.
This
So.
list is about male main characters only. Also, the male lead must be in an anime with a distinct harem in the show. You know, multiple girls actively surrounded by the guy. To be more precise, I'm counting a harem as 3 girls minimum, meaning no love triangles. We're gonna get all quadrilateral on this biz. Next is that, other than my personal opinion, I rank these guys in beauty pageant fashion based on these criteria: characterization, authenticity, uniqueness, believability, and likability. And finally, this is just my solo opinion. This is my birthday list, and I see to it how I want. And now that we're all caught up, let's get started. This is the top 10 male harem leads in anime. Number 10. Shogo Mikadono from... Oh boy, here we go. Kono Nakani Hitori Imoto Gahiru. See. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. Shannon, how come a character as plain looking as this be on the list? Well, my friends, the reason for that is something I like to call context. You see, I've been a big stickler for how harem leads get into their situations and what they do regarding their interactions. So our fine rich lad here is presented with a new type of dynamic in his harem, that in order for him to get the girl of his dreams, he must also avoid the girl hiding among them. In the anime, Shogo is the heir of a big company and is set on finding someone to date, where hopefully their love will be crowned into public glory. Everything textbook example detailed for a normal harem situation, right? But the catch is that thanks to his information bureau, one of the girls he's come across is his long-lost biological sister. And unlike a certain show, he's not cool with the idea of dating his sister. This one factor automatically gives him points for believability because of how this lead is friend in this problem. From there, Shogo uses his common sense, great caution, and resources among him to dig deep and ask those questions. Something I've always wanted with harem leads. He's on this list because he does a double take of his harem, thinking about what he's really getting into, and while the purpose of most harems is to, get the girl, I like Shogo for bringing an interesting aspect to the table. But here's the thing. The same reason is also why he's at number 10. Besides the fact that he himself is not visually memorable, and beyond the plot is just slightly the more competent and average harem lead, it's more like the environment shaped Shogo than Shogo himself being able to shape the environment. He's just going through the show, playing detective on his life, and beyond that, that's all there is. One of the most important rules in the Haremnomicon is that a good harem lead enhances the show as its centerpiece, elevating past the show about sexy characters doing sexy things. And for Shogo, he has no staying power, but I still place him on this list as a proof of concept of what harems could explore more, instead of going through the paces and playing it safe. All in all, he gets an okay in my book. Number 9. Kazuma Yuji from Kusai no Kaijutsu. I want to say first that normally I'm not a fan of this type of harem lead. The badass cool guy. Because I rarely see it done right. Either the character comes off as a pretentious asshole who hurts the girls and still gets them anyway, or someone who I felt like they never wanted to be in a harem in the first place. You can say a lot about the goofballs in the harem world, but they can be a lot more likable, or at least relatable. Then we come to this character, Kazuma Yuji, who for the most part is a badass among badasses in the harem world. He takes no prisoners, has a mysterious past, and is calm in every situation. On the surface, there's really nothing going for him, and his attractability is very low. Something I can't ignore, hence one reason he's number 9. But what makes him on this list is surprisingly his mysterious past. In his backstory, as given in the OVA prequel, Gisai no Meikyu. The first season was very horrible overall, sloppily going through the visual novel adaptation like a jiggling knife. But as crazy as it is, the prequel makes up for a lot of this lead's lack of substance. Hey, if you're going to tell a better character study, you might as well do it now than never, which makes his run in the second season much better. We learned how he was brought up and what makes him really tick. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That virginity scene had me laughing straight to the bank. Overall, I'm not spoiling much here, but it was a really great recovery for the character. And honestly, I wished more characters had some sort of leverage like this. But again, this setup is still puts him very low on the list. Just the fact that he had to get an OVA to make up for his blatant transparency speaks volumes of sloppiness, making his uniqueness a little better, but in the scope of things, not enough to do much. Not to mention that because of the OVA, my believability for his desire for any girl in the harem goes down the toilet for me. I just don't see him trying to get around on his own without the control of a player who was playing the visual novel. So yeah, he's a fun character while it lasted, but his light extinguishes before it can really get going. Number 8. Ada Kido from Orishura. Oh yeah, this man right here. Granted, compared to most of the leads above him on the list, he looks as generic anime schoolboys can get. But what made him special was his added childlike je ne sais quoi. At first, when watching Urashira, I expected a lot more generic juice pumped into Ada. However, he shows that just because a character isn't abnormal or newly groundbreaking, they can still be very likable. Eita is a polished lead, having just enough personality and character to make at least a lasting impression on me personally. Initially, we see him just as another top-of-the-class high school student, trying to sort out between where he wants to go and how he deals with his anti-romance views on life. It's this initial base that makes his natural change and interactions a lot more rewarding. Not to mention that none of his reasonings sound like an ass pull. You know, those types of ass pulls. Which, by the way, his backstory got him so much authenticity points here. Note he actually puts 2 cents on where the hell his parents are. I mean, seriously, I find it odd in anime how one minute these teens just care about the status of their parents, and the next minute they just talk about they just pooped to some Cabbage Patch farm. Getting off topic. Anyway, the story does a good job giving our main lead here some heartfelt substance and development as we move along in the harem. It feels very genuine, from his own personality becoming so colorful over time to his wacky antics with his harem eventually having more weight and consequences when he makes his decisions. But while he has more characterization thanks to his Chinibyo tendencies and the chemistry behind him and his harem, compared to many others on this list, that uniqueness is what was missing from him. He's very much a don't judge a book by its cover character, where he and the show look generic but comes off as much more. But here's to you, Ada. May you save many girls with the power of imagination.
God damn it. I love the whole SpongeBob reference there.
Number 7. Tomiya Okazaki from Clannad. Memories, sweet, sweet memories. Here on the channel, we've already covered Clannad in Robin's review, and while I personally have less qualms with the show than she does, I can understand her point of view. So that means I will be taking a lens at some of the same points said in the review for seeing why he's such a good lead. Disclaimer, this is not going to be a segment for or against that review. I'm just going to use the review a bit to speak on why this remarkable man is on this list. So we good? Good.
Okay.
Now then, I want to highlight one archetype that this character portrays that gives him a slight advantage in the harem world. The blue-haired archetype. In anime, it's really surprising how one's hair color can tell a lot about a character. And in the realm of harems, that is a very important aspect for the harem lead and how he approaches situations. For example, the brown-haired harem harem lead will normally become the hero, the one to take charge of a situation using wit or full-on passion to save his girl. But for the blue-haired, the nice guy is their endgame. Blue-haired characters like Tomiya are considerate, compassionate, will actively go out of their way to help others and give the most visual damn about being with the girl in their harem. Not saying anything bad about the other harem leads, but those with blue hair always seem to have the innate ability to win my heartstrings for getting with the girl, all for just being a nice guy. And that is the basic function in harem leads I highly appreciate, since many harem leads don't tend to seem that way except for the usual visual novel cut-and-paste nice guy character. While truly fleshed out nice guys that stick with you are few and far between. In Tomiya's case, we watched for the entire anime how he sees his life reset in a better direction thanks to his interactions with Nagisa. He over time becomes grateful at his chance to live peacefully. The emotions he displays can get to you, something that's hard to do in anime in general. When he's happy, I'm happy. When he's in pain, I'm in pain. Basically, he's the right combination of emotional investment, and I want to actively root for him. So why is someone as memorable as Tomiya only a number 7? Well, one is really no fault to him. The anime itself puts him in one potential round from the game. So it's kind of unfair that we see such an organic chemistry from a character who doesn't have to juggle so much unlike other characters on this list. It felt more like a romance anime than a legit harem, despite the fact that we get after story that goes beyond just kissing the girl. Secondly, I think that as of now in 2016, there are just many other characters that I can confidently say are better than him, breaking the convention of harem leads, hence this list. And finally, Robin's main point in her review really kind of makes me think. There's a level of tragedy in this show that makes all his efforts seem pointless in some aspects. I watched this show happily seeing his development, but with all the saturation and drama and sadness, it really hurt the character. Even when he became world's best dad, they did it again, and I was more invested in his loss than him as a character, and seeing how he can get past this, especially with that bullshit ending. Regardless, he's one of the most memorable leads in anime, one where I know for sure he will never be forgotten.
Sorry I'm not talking about that much. Hardly any of these characters I even know, so.
Because I couldn't really choose between this three-way tie. They all represent one important factor of the harem world, but in distinctly different ways. This factor is, of course, perversion. It's the lifeblood that can turn a bad harem into a ridiculous one. And when the chips are down and you're feeling blue, just put on a harem that's stupid to you. Harems, when you watch the plot, for some plot. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you the treacherous trio. Issei Hyudo from High School DxD, Tomoki Sakurai from Heaven's Lost Property, and Kitaro Uwe from Golden Boy. Starting with Issei, he's on this list because he represents one of the best possible harem leads you can
Oh,
use.
God.
Now hear me out. I know he's a moron who's ridiculous over the smallest of details, but for a genre that capitalizes on insane situations, especially as something as intense as DxD, you need
probably
a
deserve
harem lead
that.
that can complement it.
Oh,
Someone
no.
that can take hold of
Oh,
the situation
no.
by force. And as hard as it seems, he does have some outlying qualities past just being an open pervert. He knows what he wants, what he likes, and what he doesn't. Plus, when it comes to his harem, he actively tries to treat some of them different from others based on his interactions. At this point in the list, we are now finally getting concrete examples of how the main leads individually treat their girls. I mean, notice how he treats Ashia opposed to Rias. Yes, he sees potential in both of them, but there are some things he just would not do with Ashia that he would do to Rias. So briefly put, he's a fun character that represents the side of harems where we should just have fun and enjoy. As for Tomoki, he's on this list because he's what Issei would have been if he was toned down quite a notch. Not to mention that the flaws for Issei are made up with Tomoki, for Tomoki's personality is a lot calmer in comparison. Yes, he's also an open pervert who strives to see panty shots just as much as Issei, but from what I've talked about with others, he's a lot more well received in terms of watchability. Let's face it, DxD is on the more extreme side of the ecchi world. And if you desire a good fan service harem that doesn't go as far, but with his just as fun character, then Tomoki is your guy. He's a nice guy, but blunt and will say what's on his mind, yet is still laid back, appreciating a more simpler and slower life in his hometown. He doesn't want to be a big girl, just enjoy the nirvana that comes with being a toned-down pervert. When he does his perverted antics, he goes into full-on chibi mode to wreak havoc, which also helps the show's perception of being fun, but not as intense, and the girls he does go after complement his slower pace. This show is ridiculous, but in the more digestible way for the less DxD inclined. Finally, there's Kintaro. Oh, Kintaro, you classic perverted genius. A character that experiments with a
I think I remember seeing this guy.
Harem's leads today. As stated in the Haremnomico,
Back in the days of MySpace, I would randomly just go through videos and everything, and there was always this, like, just anime-made video for Run DMC's Baby Got Back. I swear this guy was in that. Somebody put him in that video.
Wandering on-the-job traveler for educated enlightenment. I swear, with all the harem leads now, he made me laugh so much over the years. No matter how many times he gets slapped, no matter how hard the challenge is, no matter how ridiculous the situation was, he always pulled through, romancing the girl by the end of the episode, only to then vanish suddenly towards his next adventure. Just look at all of them chasing after him. My goodness. If that doesn't speak volumes to you, I don't know what does. So conclusively, I just had to put these three together, since this is what I've always looked for when I want to have a fun, exciting time with no real worry for things making sense. Number 5. Yamada Ryu from Yamada and the Seven Witches.
This is gonna be a completely shit reaction video for me, because I don't know any of these characters. I've never seen any of these animes.
Now, what made him so good, in my opinion, was actually the exact opposite to why the treacherous trio were put on this list. Whereas Issei, Kentaro, and Tomoki all have over-the-top personalities that needed such for their environment, Yamada was thankfully not overplayed in a delinquent role for a setting as normal as high school, as we've seen time and time again, matching cat and all. But with the blue-haired trait mixed in, it shows how he is not oblivious to his surroundings as other leads are. If nothing else hits home about this character is that Yamada is a lead who makes decisions and doesn't waver from them.
The hairstyle looks like Ichigo to me.
He helps each girl with their problems. Not to mention
I can't help but just think of a blue-haired Ichigo from Bleach.
He's also the type who's adorable when getting excited over the simplest of little things. Another contrast I saw between him and the treacherous trio. Like how he overreacts for a microwave in the club room. In short, he's more put together and created with more thought and design than the previous guys on this list. But unfortunately doesn't escape the status quo compared to our upcoming gens. Note, everyone up to this point is what I would call the go-to leads for any typical situation.
Don't know any of them.
We are really in the big leagues now.
Don't know any of them or any of those animes whatsoever.
Our next admirable man in waiting is what you would call an artsy man from an artsy anime. Ooh, here we go. Number 4. Araki Koyomi from the Monogatari series. Araki Koyomi, aka the king of artsy anime, is an interesting study indeed. Behind his eccentric movements and mannerisms, he's surprisingly a really noble person. When it comes to the girls around him, he's both willing to take personal responsibility for his own and others' actions, and still come off as an antisocial know-it-all who actually is failing at most of his school assignments. Oh, the irony! So calling him a complex character is truly an understatement. He's soft, yet raw, has a pessimistic view on his family, yet an optimistic view on his desire to help others. He's laid back, yet reckless when it comes to taking action. There's a lot to this lolicon vampire. Plus, his actions have blatant reactions on these girls around him. Many like his quirky personality in their own special way, while others like what he does and how he treats them despite his nature being too nice at times. And believe me, it does bite him in the butt. Some say it's because of the show's art direction that gives this character more life than he should, but I believe that's the result of his unique radiance on the audience that makes him so memorable. So why 4th place? Well, his eccentric behavior can work against him in my opinion. Unlike another characters on this list who we will get to later on, the realm in which we are seeing his actions might not be everyone's cup of tea. I mean, the Monogatari franchise is known as the anime of art for art's sake for a reason. His appeal is only guided by how weird he desire harem leads, and I believe that the best harem lead still has to be grounded enough to be relatable to the audience. His problems, yes, are relatable. There's nothing wrong there. It's just the way it's presented that I can see being a turnoff to people. Another reason I put him on 4th place is, well, throughout this season, it's kind of unclear to me what Araki wants to do with love. I mean, he dates a Itagi in episode 12, but even he gives off the notion that he doesn't know what that feeling exactly is. It's great for his character study, but if you're watching this without paying too much attention, you can get lost really fast on what he wants in love, or whatever that feeling he defines it as. It's this inner conflict among other things that doesn't make me want to put him higher on the list. So is the saying that just because something's different doesn't always make it the best option. But who knows? I might not understand him fully. Megan is much better at the Monogatari series than I am, but that's how I truly feel about him on the matter. Number 3. Ayumu Aikawa from Koro wa Zombie Desu Ka? On this list we've had laid-back characters and ridiculous ones, but none of them so far has topped this lazy man right here. Gotten his harem through, well, being murdered and then being risen by a necromancer, Ayumu is now a zombie that cannot die. And for a show with girls as violent as this, it's best to be that way. Now, if you remember what I said about Issei in that for a ridiculous situation, it's best to have a ridiculous lead, right? Well, Ayumu is ridiculous at times, you know, with the whole cross-stitching magical girl get-up and wisecracking comments that soon give away to backfire. But he's more than that. It feels like whenever Ayumu wants to do his favorite thing, being lazy and enjoying some sweet quiet time, the world seems out to punish him with the interactions of his harem. And each interaction, mind you, is a special course in itself. From having to keep company
Holy
to
shit.
a necromancer,
Okay,
an over-the-top tsundere magical girl, and varying personalities of vampire ninjas. Yes, vampire ninjas. It's a lot more cooler when looking at it. His calmer personality surprisingly works well to complement his surroundings.
Alright.
I don't know if it's all the screen time he gets or the fact that he has blue hair tendencies despite not having blue hair or what. But Ayumu getting into gory, funny situations is always a treat. Another thing to note here is that because he's a zombie who can just reattach his parts if he gets hurt, how he approaches dangerous romantic gestures by the girls adds more flavor to the mix. He knows damn well that dish could literally kill someone, but because of his unique relationship with each girl separately and considerate heart, he takes it like a man and swallows a death wish. Poison and all. Heck, he at one point was even the antagonist for a while as the girls went into his psyche to see his controlling emotions. And I always find it funny how his melancholy laziness was the most powerful being of them all. It's all of these traits and more that make me want to come back and watch the anime again and again, enjoying it just as much each time because of the main lead. I guess at this point in the list, I will save my explanation for the placements of number 3 and 2 until we get to number 1. But I will say for now that all 3 were really neck and neck from each other. Number 2. Kayla Katsuragi from The World God Only Knows. Oh, big surprise! Look, all of you knew he was going to be on this list at one point or another. When people think of harem, this is one of the first people they talk about, and for good reason. Keima's character was about taking the harem formula and making fun of it, as a preemptive joke that any girl could be conquered simply by means of common sense and some experience with visual novel games. With this format in place, the girls he encounters in the first 2 seasons are designed to fit just that, being varied character tropes with normal hurdles for our harem god to come by and steal their hearts away. This way the series can focus more on Keima as a character study than just a normal protagonist caught up in a situation from where he must help the girls to progress. Beyond that, he's a visual novel expert, clothed in the life of an antisocial, analytically cynical, eccentric, smart high schooler who rather puts his energy into interacting with the 2D world than put any effort into the
I
real
remember
world.
that.
You know,
I remember
besides
there was a
from
meme on that one scene.
because, you know, you need those to survive. When he does something, he always plans 3 steps ahead, trying to foresee every route and possibility. It's only over time throughout the series where he develops the passion and desire to help these girls, not just because it's needed to conquer them, but because that's the kind of person he's becoming, and will strive to help girls even at the cost of his own well-being. Though one aspect about him that frankly no one on this list, not even number 1, has managed to do was become a leading trendsetter in anime. What I mean by this is while Keima's character on its own merit isn't a new thing, it was only after he came along that the existence known as Keima made
was
his
the scene.
character type more popular than it ever was before. If you see some shows that came out later after The World God Only Knows, you'll see other characters with a very similar type of profile, even down to the sayings. That is something I always found truly amazing about this harem lead. But even with that, he's not my number 1. So I implore you to sit back and stay tuned, because with all the comments I'll probably be getting from this choice,
I got a million characters rolling through my head right now, and I guarantee you it's none of them.
Before we get to number 1, here are some honorable mentions. Peggy Springfield from Negama, a 10-year-old teacher who doubles as a wizard with his 31-student entourage at his side. With a face that adorable, it's no wonder he's liked by many. But because he, nor the plot, desire to take the female students past any real romantic plot lines, it didn't really suit the list for my taste.
Because he's
Rino
10.
Yuki from To Love Ru and Tagune Aono from Luzario X Vampire. These two are also leads that I
Again,
can remember.
none of these animes I have seen before.
And they kind of annoyed me initially, until their later seasons and their manga, where they get to really shine as standout centerpieces. Tenji Masaki from Tenchi Muyo. Obviously, I had to mention Tenchi because he's been doing the harem game before harems were cool. But I believe that despite being one of the first leads ever, the ones on this list have overtaken him as the better harem leads. Plus, the newer iterations just pin home what made the first iteration memorable. And finally, Yo Sato from Bento.
Again,
I love watching this character.
none of these I've
He's
seen.
funny, unapologetic, and gave a great performance in his radically insane environment.
This might be the first video where none of the animes in this top 10 list I have seen or heard of before. The only times I could have actually seen any of these animes is memes on Instagram or something like that.
And the number one best male harem lead in anime is... I'm telling you, for weeks I have been going back and forth between Keima and this person for number one. Each character had impressed me in their own realm of expertise. But then at the end of the day, I wanted a lead who could best fit the following scenario. The goal of a harem lead is to be the epicenter of the people around them and the story being told.
Again, I got a million characters running through my head at once here.
Those said people, and more importantly, come to a conclusion about themselves. With that in mind, it became pretty clear who did the better job in my eyes. Though who'd have thought that the best harem lead in anime would also have the worst parents in anime? Ayazaki Hayate from Hayate no Gotoku. Yeah, the demon cyclist turned debt-ridden butler overtopped the magical zombie and gaming god for me. One reason is that if their mishaps never happened, I felt like they as characters would have been content with keeping their status quos. Yes, that's something every protagonist comes in contact with, but I appreciated the plot for giving Hayate an active problem he was already trying to deal with on his own before Nagi showed up. It wasn't a sudden murder or elusive email, but a problem that can be relatable to the viewer, and added to his desperation of wanting to get out of a dire situation, and made the introduction flow much better. Another reason has to do with something I said earlier. Remember when I was talking about how blue-haired protagonists like Yamada or Tomoya had an advantage of being given the nice guy archetype? Well, thanks to the show's writing, Hayate's take on the archetype is fleshed out beyond the basics and then some. There are times in which he's nice to the point of risking his own life. No surprise there. But then there are times when, for example, he does the tasks for someone only for bad luck Brian tendencies to either make the matters worse in a comical sense or take the sadistic approach to helping people where his darker personality resurfaces and display of harsh generosity. His last name is like that for a reason. But I think the one example that takes the cake, the one time I think that he was the most impressive, was his performance in the Valentine's themed episode. When Nishisawa finally confesses to him, he graciously declines, not because of the childhood friend cliche, but explained that as someone who's in a lot of debt, he doesn't want to place the one he loves in his predicament. So until he pays off his huge debt and is in a more comfortable state where he doesn't have to be overly cautious of money, he decided not to date anyone. He doesn't want to mooch off others like his parents did to him, and it gave me a lot of respect for the character, which to me was the defining reason that won me over first place for him than Keima, because when he faced the onslaught of girls each episode, Hayate was able to handle all the challenges at once, in contrast to Keima, who got the luxury of having his girls forget everything when their episodes were finished for the first 2 seasons, and when he was challenged with a similar atmosphere in the Goddess arc season, the sudden shift was difficult for him. Not that I don't like the struggle he's facing, it's true that Hayate, in Keima's defense, had more than 3 seasons to flesh out the ongoing feelings. But even just between the first 2 seasons, whatever happened in an earlier episode had plenty of potential to act in later ones in Hayate's case. It just kept flowing from season to season. Hayate's problems were still concurrent between seasons. The girls' interactions were developed more and more through the good writing. And most importantly, nothing was ever forgotten. In conclusion, Hayate might not have the most unique character design. He may not be the smartest or efficient harem lead, but his relatable problems, progression, authenticity, and overall character has proven to me that he deserves the title of the best male harem lead in anime. Woo! My birthday list is is finally finished. Now I can eat some cake and not have to be alive for once. Tell me what you guys think. Do you agree or disagree with the list? Do you have your own selection of fancy guys from your choosing? But anyway, I think I'm gonna head out for now and enjoy this nice birthday month, and to see if I can indoctrinate Lark into the Harem-Namicon. Oh, I shall convert the non-believer!
The fuck? Okay. Okay, that was interesting. I think that's the first video that I've reacted of Anime America where I don't know any, like I've not watched one episode or not even heard of any of the animes on the list whatsoever. Not even the honorable mentions. None of those. Never heard of a single. Well, no, I heard of Clannad. Guess that doesn't count. I've never watched an episode of Clannad though. So, out of this entire list, I've not seen a single episode of any of these animes. I think that's pretty good. But yeah, I don't know where to go from this. I literally had nothing else to do for this video. I don't know. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button down there. Comment if you guys got any more Anime America videos you want me to react to, and I will make sure to put them down on the list. And if I remember to, put your YouTube channel name or just put your name in the description, and I'll make sure to try to give you a recommend. I don't know what I'm saying here. Anyway, subscribe if you guys are not subscribed for more of these videos on my channel, and I will see you guys later.